This is what a symphysiotomy looks like, a woman's pelvis opened up with a saw to make a difficult childbirth easier. Ireland's blunt alternative to caesarean section, widely believed to have been endorsed by the Catholic Church to enable women to have more and more babies. It left mothers incontinent and unable to walk. The practice was condemned by the United Nations as torture. Eventually a compensation scheme was brought in by the state on behalf of hundreds of surviving women crippled in their own hospitals.
All doctors, consultants, obstetricians, surgeons, the very people who actually perpetrated this abuse.
But the question now is, in whose interest has the scheme been constructed? After all, any woman who accepts compensation also signs away her right to take any other legal action against, well, anyone in Ireland, down from the state itself to any doctor or religious institution. That looks a bit like protecting the abusers.
It's extremely difficult to understand why women in their 70s and 80s who have been abused, and that's been accepted by a retired judge, and they've been offered money, should in addition be expected to indemnify the very people who have abused them and the institutions that have stood over that abuse.
This is the woman making decisions on the compensation claims, a retired judge, Maureen Harding-Clark, who's been given an office at the Department of Health to assess what monetary value to put on suffering. Lawyers for the survivors paint a picture of a woman unwilling to believe what she's told. We've voiced their words as they all said that going on camera would jeopardise their cases still further.
She doesn't believe most of the women. When you've had women crying in front of you, 80 years old, talking about sexual dysfunction, about how they couldn't bond with their children, it's desperate. One woman told me she was sorry she'd ever made a claim.
She said she wouldn't put much store by personal statements from the women. Evidence about their physical state is unacceptable. She throws back the claims, saying she wants proof.
She's dismissive of medical experts. She says they're only reciting what the women tell them. She told us that there should be a paper trail from the time of the procedure. It's needed for the claim.
The compensation scheme demands that the victim prove significant disability and provide medical evidence if they're to try to claim more than a minimum payment of around $50,000 as a result of being sawed open in hospital. Yet most of the women had this done to them 30 or 40 years ago, don't have any medical records, and to make matters worse, some now stand accused of inventing symptoms to get money from the state.
Judge Clark has repeatedly indicated that she does not believe women and that women are learning what to say about their injuries at our meetings. And we totally reject the outrageous implication that women are making false claims to the scheme.
The Department of Health said Judge Clark hadn't raised the issue of women making false claims, and she said she couldn't speak to us while assessing the claims. What this really boils down to is the accountability of the state to its own citizens. True enough, all these operations happened in the 20th century, but still many people here believe that if Ireland is to move forward, there should be a reckoning and that people should be held accountable. And they also believe the way the state has constructed this compensation scheme has the very opposite intention in mind. And so how much money can the women expect to receive? In Parliament, this MP had to formally request to find out. The answer is out of just 150 cases so far, 2/3 have had the bare minimum of around $50,000.
We were absolutely shocked to discover that out of the 153 claims that have been processed so far, and let's remember these are the easy ones, the ones with the records that are there, 97 of those have been settled for the smallest amount of money involved, €50,000 for women who've spent a lifetime, decades of pain, agony, life's disruption is quite shocking.
So as it stands, the Irish church, state and medical profession have protected themselves from even having to explain why hundreds of women had this done to them in childbirth. And the victims themselves are the ones being forced to offer that protection. For women in the final chapters of their lives, that can hardly feel like justice. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera, Dublin.